For Veterans Only is a national television news magazine for America's veterans and a presentation of Veterans Productions USA. Reporting for Veterans Only is Brian Patrick.
Football fans arriving for Super Bowl 24 in New Orleans received an unexpected greeting outside the Superdome. About 100 veterans and supporters lined up near the stadium to remind them and those watching around the world there are still thousands of missing servicemen who should not be forgotten.
P-O-W-M-I-A!
P-O-W-M-I-A!
Shame of all the USA!
Shame of all the USA!
How can you look the other way?
How can you look the other way?
That ain't the way that we were raised!
That ain't the way that we were raised!
Don't you tell us to forget!
Don't you tell us to forget!
It ain't even over yet!
It ain't even over yet!
Frustrated by the apparent public apathy and a lack of media attention to the issue, John Opager and his brother came up with the idea of Operation End Zone. The goal? To bring public attention to the POW-MIA issue.
It's the reluctance of the media to keep the issue alive and in the eyes of the American people. So between the two of us, we decided that we would adopt the attitudes of the 60s people, seeing as how most of us were 60s people, and take an issue to the media, much the way they did. This is not an issue of the past, it's an issue of the future as well, because there's policy in place that consistently has left men and women behind for 45 years. And we want the American people to realize that, and to realize that unless we take steps to change that policy, it could be their children and grandchildren who are left behind the next time.
Thousands of fans passed by the demonstrators quietly, some stopping just long enough to find out what was going on. Operation End Zone also attracted the attention of the local media, and the goal of gaining national exposure was met when CNN carried a story the following Monday morning. For the participants, any disruption of the festivities of the day were justified.
I don't think we're putting a damper on their party, but I do think we're getting a certain degree of attention out here. Why are we not sitting in a bar watching the Super Bowl? Well, there's something a little more important this day, brought about in our minds by the 17th anniversary of the signing of the Paris Peace Accords yesterday.
Ann Curran's son has been missing since 1969. She was in New Orleans to tell everyone who would listen that she is not giving up.
But I can't go around crying all the time. People would soon get tired of that. So I keep up a strong front. I know my tears are all locked up inside of me. That's probably why I have an ulcer. But I have a great hope that he will come home. I just can't wait for the day when I see him.
Operation End Zone concluded with a wreath-laying ceremony at the Vietnam Memorial on the Superdome Plaza and a simple cry for freedom.
What do we want? Freedom! When do we want it? Now! God bless you all.
Veterans move, hospitals don't. That's the problem facing the veterans' health care system in the state of Florida, an exploding veteran population and not enough facilities to treat them. In part 2 of a special series, Mike Victor explores this medical dilemma for veterans and those who must care for their health needs in the Sunshine State.
They're coming to Florida from the Carolinas, the Northeast, the Midwest. They're coming in droves and not just to vacation. Americans are moving into the Sunshine State at a rate faster than anywhere else. State officials estimate the number of new residents here to be about 900 per day, and about 150 of them are veterans. How has the state faced the task of caring for those veterans, and how will it handle the ever-increasing population? Those are questions of interest to the entire nation. It's the American dream. Move to Florida, enjoy the pleasant climate and good standard of living. But for many veterans, the dream is more like a nightmare. Florida is at the bottom of the list in the number of beds available at VA hospitals, and there is less discretionary care provided than in any other state, and that's just the beginning.
Highest incidence of disabled veterans, the most severely disabled veteran population, a highest median age veteran population. And all those things, of course, have an impact on the demand for health care.
There are presently 5 VA hospitals in Florida: Miami, Tampa, St. Pete, Gainesville, and Lake City. and a sixth has been budgeted for West Palm Beach. However, East Central Florida is home to hundreds of thousands of veterans who have been promised a hospital for more than 12 years.
Our demographic projections showed that in about 10 years there would be a need for a new hospital in the East Central Florida area. As a result of that proposal, a facility is being planned. Sites are being looked at. Washington is considering determining where to place the hospital, and should that become an eventuality, a facility will be available in 1998 or thereabouts.
In Brevard County, for example, 63,000 veterans must travel 150 miles to an overcrowded facility in Tampa.
The Florida hospital has been talked about for years and years and years. And if we're going to get a hospital in Central Florida in the late 90s, it's not going to benefit those who need it and fought for it now. So we've got to come up with a scheme. Our legislators, our bureaucrats have got to come up with a better method of handling the veterans' medical cares immediately.
Colonel George Draper has been fighting for veterans' rights since he left the service. He's published the Veterans Journal in an attempt to make known the needs of Florida veterans.
In Brevard County, huge veteran population, no facilities. The nearest facility is Orlando, completely saturated. There's no way for a veteran here to go to Orlando, so the veteran must go to Tampa. And to go to Tampa, the veteran must meet certain criteria. The reason for veterans flocking here, it's a military community. We have the Space Center, we have Patrick Air Force Base, we have many things going on here that veterans like, especially a good climate. But they come here and retire here, they work here, and they expire here. And they need medical care here, and they cannot get it.
Although the Florida Regional Office in St. Petersburg is the largest in the country, the present staff of 560 was reduced by 200 in the past 5 years, making the task of serving 1.5 million veterans even harder.
Statistically, we have a case gain of over 3,600 a month, which means it's quite likely that that translates into an actual veterans migration into Florida of over 3,600 a month. We know that we're in a growth area. The way that we deal with it best is by working harder, working smarter, and automation.
The director says budget cuts have made it impossible to fully train the staff and to provide many services.
We are not able to do the kinds of outreach activities that we would like to. We're not able to go out and make personal contacts on very many people. Most of our personal contacts are reduced to our toll-free telephone system here in the regional office. While that is the best that we have to offer, a one-on-one kind of communication would be much better. We have very few people outbased throughout this large state to deal one-on-one with veterans and their dependents. We need more.
Florida Governor Bob Martinez told For Veterans Only that his state's veteran problem needs to be addressed nationally.
And the most underfunded veteran system in the nation, one that the funding formula just has to change. You know, we can't fund where people sign up and serve. We got to fund where they live, and they live in Florida, and this is where the services have to be.
The migration of people exceeds the migration of resources. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is unable, for various reasons, to reallocate resources and people and everything you need to take care of veterans as rapidly as our veteran population grows.
They're getting monies based on a resource model that requires that monies be shifted. The monies haven't yet been shifted.
Will we see that shortly?
I'm hopeful of that fact. It appears that people are recognizing the fact that you have to put the money where the rubber hits the road, and I think in Florida that's the case.
Officials and veterans alike blame old pork barrel politics from allowing funds to be shifted to the Sun Belt.
If you go to the overall Governors Association, then you have to deal with those states like Illinois and Pennsylvania and all the rest that are losing population, or they're standing still, but they have the money coming to them. Well, they're not too interested in seeing changes in funding, for it means they receive less. So what we have to do is develop a coalition among the states that are growing.
Florida's population growth will mean more representation in the new Congress. Veterans here are hopeful that will translate into more resources shifted to the South.
Congress retains to itself the prerogative of approving any significant VA reorganization, and that includes reallocation of resources. Imagine the difficulty of closing a hospital in Tip O'Neill's district to build one in Florida, for example, or even downgrading one in Walla Walla, Washington, to improve those in Florida. It's a very difficult problem. I think as our congressional delegation gains more clout, as we have more representatives in Washington, and we now have 3 members on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, that we can exert more pressure and gradually realize a more equitable allocation of the resources.
There are presently 9 VA outpatient clinics in the state, like this one in Orlando. A record 100,000 outpatient visits were seen here in 1989 by only 30 doctors and 20 nurses.
The problems we face is we just don't have enough space and enough physicians to treat the number of veterans that we have. We are turning away those veterans that come down from the north that are used to getting treated in VA hospitals up there are not entitled down here because of, the restrictions we have.
97% of those visits were for service-connected disabilities. The huge workload has forced most veterans needing medical help to go elsewhere. And the long distance to a VA hospital has forced doctors to utilize expensive civilian hospitals for those in need of immediate help.
When we see patients who have acute medical problems and are unstable, such as an acute heart attack, bleeding, shock, etc., we can't put that patient in an ambulance and send them 2 hours to the Tampa VA hospital or the Gainesville VA hospital. We have to hospitalize them locally as an emergency.
There are more than 200,000 veterans, spouses, and dependents in Orange County alone. Many have been enduring the lack of medical facilities here for years.
I have to travel to Tampa every month for a certain treatment. They don't have the equipment here to do the job I need done monthly.
I've never seen anybody work as hard and diligently as they do here with the amount of people and equipment that they have, but they are sorely in need of a hospital.
The existing facilities in Florida simply can't keep up with the number of the demand, the number of new patients who would show up at outpatient clinics and need inpatient care. And that really is the principal problem, and it gets worse gradually, because whereas the veteran population of the United States as a whole is declining, in Florida it continues to grow.
VA doctors say the need for more hospitals is surpassed only by the need for more nursing homes. There are only 4 in the entire state. An expansion of the nursing home in Tampa is underway, but veterans say it will do little to help the thousands in need. They say the state should also come up with more funding, since veterans bring in billions of dollars every year in benefits. The state has made one big step. It's called the Veterans Home of Florida. This $7 million facility was funded 35% by Florida, 65% by Washington. It is not a nursing home, rather an old soldier's home. When it opens this May, it will have a very limited nursing staff, and all 150 residents must be ambulatory.
This home was created by the state of Florida to be a place that veterans that don't need to be in a nursing home, don't need to be in a hospital, but simply can't live out on their own for some reason, perhaps by age or disease, this will provide a home for them. We intend to provide them incentive work therapy programs so that they can develop some skills to perhaps get them back into the employment field, develop some skills that they could use to be able to live on their own in terms of cooking meals, just living skills. We hope to be able to provide them with instruction in various areas so they can function back out on their own in the event they're able to move back out into the mainstream.
Governor Martinez says he recognizes the state's responsibility to the veteran, and he will include funding for another such facility in his next budget.
So I believe we have a responsibility. And the reason I believe that is we don't have to provide these services anyhow. In the absence of veteran services, we'll end up serving them in our regular system. So it crowds our regular system. So at least with the nursing program that I advocate, there are federal dollars to be drawn down into Florida by virtue of us putting up money. Well, that's a good investment for the state of Florida. Otherwise, we'd have to put up all the money to do it outside the veteran system.
The cry for help of elderly veterans has also been heard by the veterans of foreign wars. Over the past 3 years, the VFW has built this old soldiers' home in Marion County near Ocala. By summer, they hope to open the doors for 60 veterans.
We've been working on it for about 3 years. Everything that you see here now is already paid for. We're coming close to completion. We already have $1 million into the building. We have some in reserve right now. We need about $250,000 to go.
Every dollar for this project was raised by the men and women of the VFW. On one leg, Ray Schreiner raised $20,000, walking more than 230 miles across the state.
There's a whole lot of veterans, you know. A lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of them laying around that know where to go, living in cardboard boxes or in gutters or whatever, and everybody just forgets them. Nobody cares. It just seems like they don't care.
The Florida migration has multiplied the ranks of homeless and jobless vets, but all agree the number one task must be providing medical care for those who gave so much of themselves for America.
There are many people who might be entitled who are discouraged by the difficulty in getting appointments and therefore either go elsewhere, spend their own money, or go without medical treatment. So the numbers are hard to ascertain. But even in the words of some of the hospital directors whom I won't quote directly, they are turning people away. Now, by law, they have to treat people who have a service-connected disability for that service-connected disability. But it may be so long in getting an appointment that delayed treatment is in effect denied treatment.
The answer, they say, is a system which would allow the benefits to move to Florida along with the veteran.
When a veteran moves, a veteran brings with him credentials to certify that that particular veteran is entitled to care. And not only does the veteran have eligibility to the facility, but some bucks are transferred from Washington or from the state the veteran came from to this state.
Florida has been chosen as the site for a national meeting this September of all state directors of Veterans Affairs. Their mission will be to look objectively at each state's needs and contributions. Florida's director will be asking representatives from states losing veterans to put aside politics in favor of the overall good of those who fought for our freedom.
So I think collectively as a nation, we then should provide the benefits for which they're entitled for having performed a service for all of us.
Built more than 100 years ago, Florida's old capital stands in the shadow of the state's new skyscraper capital. The two are in stark contrast to each other, just as the sleepy Florida of yesteryear and the wildly growing state of today, prompting the question, will the state and the VA be able to provide all of the newcomers, especially the veterans, with the services they need? All over the country, Americans are hoping the answer is yes. In Tallahassee, Mike Victor reporting for Veterans Only.
The state of Florida has come up with another unique way to raise funds for old soldiers' homes and veterans' nursing homes. There is a new red, white, and blue license plate saluting Florida's veterans. Anyone can buy the special tags, with $15 from each plate sold going toward veterans' homes.
Because veterans' benefits are constantly changing, the Department of Veterans Affairs has prepared a special booklet entitled A Guide to Veterans Benefits. For a free copy of this informative and timely publication, write to VA Hotline, Post Office Box 1777, Louisville, Kentucky 40201. If you're experiencing a particular problem in qualifying for veterans' entitlements, the Department of Veterans Affairs will provide you with direct assistance. Address your correspondence to VA Hotline, Post Office Box 1777, Louisville, Kentucky 40201.
Some Vietnam-era veterans may have money coming, but time is running out for them to apply for a special cash bonus. As Don Murray reports, there are only a few weeks left for Vietnam veterans who were residents of Kentucky when they served to put in their application for a cash award of up to $500.
Yes, could you hold one moment, please? Veterans Bonus Branch, could you hold a moment? Yeah. Thank you.
Since last March, Kentucky's Department of Veterans Affairs has processed about 65,000 bonus applications. But the state estimates that there are over 100,000 bonus-eligible veterans and is hoping to receive the remaining thousands of applications before the program expires.
Okay, now were you a resident of Kentucky 6 months prior to entering the service?
The bonus is being offered to veterans who were Kentucky residents at least 6 months prior to serving during the Vietnam conflict. Veterans must have served for at least 90 consecutive days and must have received a discharge under honorable conditions. Vietnam-era veterans who meet these requirements should apply for service in Vietnam after July 1, 1958, in Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, or the Dominican Republic after July 3, 1965, or anywhere in the United States or overseas after August 4, 1964.
We are providing a bonus of up to $500 if a veteran served in Vietnam or part of the combat theater. If he did not serve in Vietnam but served in the armed forces during a period of time, then we're giving a maximum of $300. I think this fares very well as far as comparable to other states. We are not bringing this forward as a payment for services rendered. It's a form of recognition. I don't think you can pay any of our veterans for serving in a wartime conflict, but we are providing it as a point of recognition.
The bonus amount is figured on a monthly basis, and according to Ed Gill, bonus branch manager, not all veterans will receive the maximum amount.
Most of the mail we get from the veterans question the fact that he did not either get $500 if he was in Vietnam or $300 if he was not in Vietnam. In fact, the law is written that he gets $15 a month for each month that he wasn't in Vietnam, $25 a month for each month he was in Vietnam, not to exceed $500. So it takes a combination of both to come up with the figure. An example, if a person served 2 years, 1 year in Vietnam, 1 year stateside, he would get $300 for his Vietnam service. That's 12 months times 25, and he would get $280 for his stateside.
The idea of recognizing veterans with a cash bonus is not new in Kentucky. In 1962, the state awarded millions to all of its wartime veterans. And for more than a decade, Vietnam-era veterans have sought similar compensation, but it wasn't until late in 1988 that the state could afford it. During a special session in December of 1988, the Kentucky General Assembly legalized a state lottery and made it possible to fund the multi-million-dollar program.
When Governor Wilkinson created the lottery here in the state of Kentucky, he also created the funding mechanism to build up, and he's committed that the first payments to come out of the lottery proceeds will be to fund this bonus.
According to Colonel Arnett, response to the program has been positive, but some veterans, like Joe Devers, are still skeptical because a bonus in Kentucky has been a rumor for a long time.
Yeah, my mother had told me off and on over a period of years, and I told her I'd believe it when I see it, when I get the money in the hand.
Do you believe it now?
When I get it.
Like many veterans, Joe Devers is uncomfortable with the recent wave of attention being given to Vietnam veterans and hopes in Kentucky it will pass with the passing of bonus checks.
I think about it from time to time, but I think more than anything, TV and the movies won't let me forget it. You know what I'm saying?
You wish they would?
Yeah.
You wish everybody forget?
Yeah.
You'd like to forget?
Yeah, I would.
What about the bonus? Is this just another reminder?
Yeah. I'm glad I'm getting it, but it's just another reminder. I wish TV and everybody would leave Vietnam alone, and then maybe I could forget it.
Nonetheless, he and tens of thousands of other Kentucky veterans will soon be receiving a bonus that the state hopes will serve to give veterans at least a part of the recognition they deserve.
I appreciate it, I do, but, you know, they put up a big, nice memorial out here. That's plenty of recognition, but I can use the money.
Bonus checks will be going out by mail in April, and with the money, Colonel Arnett says there is a message.
We recognize your service. We want to tell you that we appreciate your sacrifice, and that sacrifice of your family that went on when you went off to fight for the United States. Kentucky is proud of its veterans, and we want to always pay tribute to those folks.
Surviving beneficiaries may also apply for Kentucky's Vietnam Veterans Bonus. If you think you may be eligible, contact the bonus branch at area code 502-564-8468. That's 502-564-8468. But hurry, the deadline is nearing.
It's kind of like taxes. The first ones that come in is the first one's going to get the check. So beat that last deadline rush and get their applications in.
For Veterans Only, I'm Dawn Murray.
The Kentucky General Assembly is considering extending the February 28th application deadline by 6 months. but it's important that you apply immediately. Now, Kentucky isn't the only state that has offered veterans bonuses. 21 other states have done the same, but most of the offers have now expired. However, if you were a resident of Massachusetts or Illinois when you served, you may still be eligible for a bonus. Minnesota also issued a bonus, though the program is officially expired now. Late applications are being accepted and considered on a case-by-case basis. For more information, write Bonus in care of for Veterans Only, P.O. Box 1777, Louisville, Kentucky 40201. That's Bonus in care of for Veterans Only, P.O. Box 1777, Louisville, Kentucky 40201. Next week on For Veterans Only, another Vets Forum, this time featuring Sonny Montgomery, Chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. The proposed budget for the Department of Veterans Affairs will be the primary focus. I'm Brian Patrick. Thanks for being with us. We hope you'll join us next week on For Veterans Only.
Share For Veterans Only with your friends and other veterans. A VHS copy of this week's program is available for $24.95, including postage and handling. To order your copy of For Veterans Only, call toll-free 1-800-874-VETS. That's 1-800-874-VETS. You can charge your order on Visa or MasterCard, or you can pay by check or money order. To get For Veterans Only on VHS, call now 1-800-874-VETS.
This program is made possible by the Disabled American Veterans, a non-profit service organization of over 1 million wartime disabled veterans. By the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. VFW means Service to America's Veterans. By PVA, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and PVA Sports, working for the best. And by Galaxy Tours, a world leader for national and international group travel. The producers thank this station and other public television stations for their assistance in making this program available. For Veterans Only is also telecast by the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service for the benefit of the men and women serving on active duty in our armed forces, at home and abroad.